Hello, I'm Jodi Scott. I'm CEO of Spry Life, founder of Green Goo, and I'm about to be on the Prosperity Online show, and we're going to talk about our Green Goo journey.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your number one destination for exclusive stories, solutions, and transformational insight. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And as you would understand, in every episode, we aim to tackle real pain points and something that our guests would have established or faced head on. And then they are bringing us the lessons or the products that they've created to solve those issues. Now, I can't wait to present to you our next guest, who is Jodi Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. And I can't wait to jump into your journey and everything else that you have created and are going to be presenting to our audience today. Now, for those that are meeting Jodi Allison Scott for the very first time, let me just take you from under that internet rock you've been hiding under. And I think it's going to be a pleasure to speak to somebody who literally cooked up a business in her own kitchen. All right. So cells were cooling in mason jars. There was chaos bubbling, dogs underfoot. You know, it's not an everyday scenario where you will create a business that ends up in not only one, but 120,000 retail outlets. So our guest today is a co-founder and CEO of Green Goo, and we're going to be unpacking how she and her mom and also sister turned a tiny chaotic passion project into a plant-based first aid powerhouse, as I've said, which has seen world acclaim. And obviously stick around. You will be learning all about the funny highs, the greedy fears, the invisible lessons, and also the unapologetic transformative aha moments that Jodi has got to bring. Now, Jodi, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified to talk about. You see, you started off in a whole different world than you are in right now. Take us a little bit back to your to the days where you actually started and you discovered plants were actually medicine.
Absolutely. Plants are medicine. Well said. So I got my master's in health psychology and was pre-med and was specializing in psychoneuroimmunology. And so many ask, what does that mean? And truly, that is the relationship of your mind, your body, and your immune system, and how you're responding to the environment. And it was very disruptive in the medical field. So I used to train resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model and really look at the patient as more than just a prescription and look at their lifestyle, their community, their culture, and really bring that forward to improve their wellness plan. And during that time, my sister was going to herb school and she was becoming a midwife. And we started, and we've always been passionate about clean living. We were professional athletes, swimmers, runners, and we realized the connection of food and performance very quickly. And we were label junkies, always reading labels. So we really cared about what we intake and what the ingredients were. But what was really interesting that we didn't do was, yeah, we had clean food and clean personal care, but our first aid cabinet was full of one-time use chemical products. And we really believed that in first aid, these were the only products that could get the job done. And so my sister started making medicine from plants, and she was making tinctures and supplements and these topical therapeutics. And at the time, my daughter was a little less than a year old, and I didn't want to use, for the first time, I was like, wait, I could maybe use something different than these chemical products on my daughter for her cut and her scrape, and she had eczema. And so I started using these products and I was like, wow, like these really work. These are a game changer. And so my mom, sister, and I kind of huddled together and said, well, let's start selling these at the farmer's market. And you know what? Everyone loves the farmer's market. If this is as far as it goes, that's okay. We'll enjoy the farmer's market. We'll get some fresh breads. Maybe we'll trade some fresh produce from our garden to theirs, their fresh produce and so forth. And so we started selling these products. And Green Goo, the name was not born yet. So we were just selling these products at the farmer's market. And one day we saw that our line was the longest line in the market. And, a mom comes up to us and she's crying because she's so grateful that her son, who had eczema, is actually going to school and he's not as embarrassed anymore because our salve worked. Another individual had had a number of surgeries and couldn't enjoy his outdoor activities that he had previously enjoyed, and he used our pain relief product. And he was like, this was a game changer. I'm out walking again. People are lifting up their shirts and showing us their big gashes from their, outdoor adventures for the weekend and how their first aid product worked. And I was like, wow, these people are really enthusiastic about it the same way we are. And I thought, well, maybe we need to look into this a little further. So I went and started looking at the first aid space in general. And what I found was exactly what we were experiencing, which was the natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told products like Neosporin, hydrocortisone were the only products that could get the job done. And what was more interesting to me was that the conventional consumer was also dissatisfied, but they didn't care about what the ingredients were. They just wanted something that performed better. They found it inconvenient that they weren't getting an over-the-counter solution, and oftentimes it became more irritated and worse. And instead, they had to go to their physician, get a prescription. It usually cost them more, and they just wanted something that worked better. And so that's when Green Goo was born. That's when we decided that we were going to make plant-based, sustainable first aid solutions that were superior in efficacy and that would work better than your traditional over-the-counter products.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for taking us through that in and of itself. And for a lot of people that are maybe watching this, everybody gets very skeptical when something doesn't come through a person who is wearing a white jacket and has something hanging off of their neck, and it's just natural for things of that nature. But how were people sort of taking this when you showed up to them? Because so many people might be like, even though you guys were confident it worked, but what was the usual uptake, of the product?
You bet. Great question. The plant-based renaissance had not happened yet, which was what we call today, where the term plant-based is very universally shared. I mean, apparently you can buy plant-based water now. And so when we first brought plant-based first aid, of course, there were the early adopters. So those are the people who are already using natural products. They're interested in natural products. And of course, once you try it, the proof is in the product. It actually works. And I'll back up a little bit. Something that we did that was really important was that we protected the integrity of how we make these products. So most of the time, people are taking pre-made extracts, mixing them together, and then giving you a lotion or a topical therapeutic of some sort if you're in the natural space. What we do is we actually still bring the plants to our manufacturing facility where we take it through the extraction process. We yield high amounts of these medicinal properties from these plants and these custom oils with this beautiful botanical blend, which all work well together to create this entourage effect, is what makes these products work. So it's high potency, very clean ingredients with very compatible herbs that are working together specifically for a use case. And so if you're familiar with the natural space, it doesn't take a natural consumer long to look at the back of the label and go, oh, wow, like they're using yarrow and plantain and calendula and chickweed and chamomile. They're using the actual plant. So they're already informed enough to try. But I will say for the conventional consumer, this was very new to them. And I'll never forget sitting in front of a pharmacy buyer, a national pharmacy buyer. And I said, hey, I've got a plant-based first aid for you. And he just looked at me and goes, yeah, right. And I said, no, you got to try this. And of course, again, the efficacy always far exceeds the consumer's expectation. So he took that product home. He and his family fell in love with it, and it eventually made it to the shelf. And so it was often that we would get a conventional consumer that would say, you know what? I've had poison ivy all summer long. I'm terribly allergic to poison ivy. Nothing else works. I'm just going to try Green Goo because it's my last ditch effort for something that's over the counter. And then they use it and they're like, it was gone within 2 days. What else do you have? This is the first natural product I've ever used. Now maybe I am more willing to try natural products because the efficacy that they have experienced. And we have we have clinicians that use our products. John Hopkins has been using our dry skin formula for over a decade in their scleroderma and skin condition department. And again, it's one of those things that when you use it, it just exceeds your expectations, which is what I love with our product development. Every time we're going to the drawing board and we're thinking about the next product we're going to make, it needs to exceed expectations and give the customer value so that they can go, okay, I can stand by this.
Absolutely. See, what I wanted to bring about here is the utmost conviction that you now have in, obviously, that this has worked. First of all, it worked for you as, growing up, and now it's working for other people. So all that validation really makes it easy for you to then be able to sell that to others. Now, just take us a little bit back. You did mention that you grew up, clean living. And obviously, this is something that in and around, history, not a lot of people would have been in that sort of particular scenario. And you were doing sports and obviously all those things which entailed that you really need to be well nourished and obviously well healthy in and of itself. What was it like growing up? What was the home scenario looking like?
Well, some funny stories for you. So we grew up in the military and we moved every 3 months to 3 years. And my mom loved plants, but she didn't want to grow a garden and then have to leave 3 months later. So she potted all of her plants and then they moved with us. So we would be moving from one house to the next with all these potted plants in the car where you're constantly swatting them because you're like, oh my gosh, these things are so annoying. But then you get to the next location and the plants became our home because we'd get home or to the new home and then she would cook something, use the herbs that were in her herb garden, grab the aloe for a burn. And so we knew our plants. We knew how to identify our plants. We knew what they did, and it just became a part of our staple. But one time we were in the middle of a move and we're crying and we're swatting the plants. And we looked down at this box of cosmetics and we're like, Mom, like, there's not enough room in this car already. Why do we have a box of cosmetics? Like, put them with the movers. And she's like, we can't because they're flammable. You can't send anything with the movers that are flammable. And we're like, you put that on your skin? Why would you do that? And so she went on to tell us about petroleum and ingredients. And then we were like, oh, and oh, by the way, Mom, you haven't used these products for at least 4 moves. Like, just ditch them because you're not using them. But it really laid the foundation for us where when we started reading labels, it wasn't just for food anymore. So yes, we cared about our nutrition and how that impacted our performance. But then all of a sudden it was like, well, what else is in the other things that are around us? And of course, labels were just kind of starting to become a requirement. And that really was a platform for us going forward. And I think being more in tune with the change that needed to happen in skincare, because all of a sudden it was like, then we learned about petroleum and aluminum and sulfates and fragrances and phthalates and forever chemicals. And, we're learning more and more. Today on the news, there was a new one in nail polish. And so it just really clued us in to the opportunities of, perhaps there's a cleaner way to do things and not just for your overall health and wellness, but the impact it has on the planet. You start thinking about, you wash this stuff off of you in the shower, and then it goes in the water, and then it goes into the food supply, and it's sort of this cycle. And so this is our little niche in the over the counter first aid space where we feel like we can really make a difference, where it essentially has been untouched for the last 50 years. And I don't think, let's bring in the Industrial Revolution and manufacturing. I don't think anyone meant to hurt anyone. This was just a time where all of a sudden there was a way to mass produce product to get to mass number of people. And we didn't have the transportation or the technology we have today. So oftentimes it could be 6 months before it got to someone's door. So of course they needed preservatives. And there was also this perspective of, I need to have more volume for value. And so that's where all those fillers came in. And I think, now we have the transportation, we have the technology. You can get something very quickly to your door. We also have the knowledge to know which herbs can act as a way to make a product shelf stable. And they're just getting to people quicker. And we want to simplify. We don't want the clutter in our first aid cabinets, let alone our homes in general, to just simplify and have your product serve you in a greater way. So when we product develop, we also look at, can this product serve in more than one case symptom or case use case? So, like, for example, our Green Goo First Aid is not just a topical antiseptic. It is your first aid kit in one little tin. So it's for bug bites, but then bee stings, poison ivy, cuts, scrapes, blisters, chafing. You could even use it for poison ivy. You can even use it for hemorrhoids. And so it's all the things. And it just allows you to take that mantra of simplifying your home, simplifying your life, and also having something that is versatile. It is portable. And you will find that when you have that Green Goo First Aid with you, all of a sudden you're using it all the time. And you can hand it to your child. You're not going to give your child a chemical tube from the OTC space and say, here, go ahead, put that on your boo-boo. So we love Goo Goo for your boo-boo. It takes the sting and the itch out, which is great too. And so, when kiddos do get a scratch and they're asking for that Band-Aid, that Band-Aid's not doing anything. It's just buying that kiddo some time as they're experiencing the pain and the sting. Well, the Green Goo First Aid actually takes the sting out too. So it's fun to see the kiddos just be able to have the autonomy to self-care.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what I like about that is you did highlight on how things were just made en masse, because it was a time where things had to be cheaper, better, faster, and reach to the audiences, and nobody really paid attention to what was, real, or what was working, or what's a placebo and what's not a placebo. But what I extrapolated from that answer is the family unit, which basically, when you guys were moving from place to place, you would obviously have just you guys to start off with, whereas so many other people, when they live in a place for quite a while, family starts to disintegrate because, they're in that one place. So is that why it became very easy for you to start off together as a family unit, because you've always been crammed together in some some movement vehicle of sorts, and things of that nature, because it's very difficult to start a business with family?
Absolutely. And I think we were probably laying the groundwork for our skill set to function and operate as a successful business, as a family, as early as that. And I always said, every time I would go to a retirement in the military, I always appreciated the acknowledgement when they're saying their thank yous to the serviceman or woman and saying thank you to the family, because it really takes a family to navigate that successfully. And every move, we recognized very quickly that, my sister, my brother, my parents, they were our rock. And we learned to go through some very difficult times together and then turn them into joy, turn them into opportunities. And fast forward, when Green Goo was born, we really wanted to protect the relationships that we had with each other. And we had heard that there was this possibility of toxicity in a family business, and that it brings out the worst in everyone and starts to get nasty. And instead of being reactive, we wanted to be proactive. So I started seeking counsel from people who either helped people that were in family businesses or were in family businesses themselves, and said, give me tools, help us be ahead of this instead of having to fix sore feelings and broken relationships. And that was so helpful because we could come in with a structure and a system in the very beginning. And it really served us well. And some of that was, you give each other a lane and a responsibility, and you trust that they have their lane and their responsibility. Because if you were to hire someone else that's not a family member, that's how you would treat them. And if you don't get to make that exception because they're a family member, you need to continue to respect that and honor that. And, we'd always say, don't leave your hand on the hot stove for too long. So if we have one of those heated moments, because a family member can trigger you like no one else can, and you have to remember you're experiencing that yourself, and owning that. Don't put your hand on the hot stove for too long. Take a minute, take a deep breath, walk away, and really grounding ourselves in those discussions. And it, it's probably one of my greatest joys in doing this, is doing this with my family. And people will say, how can you guys work all day long and then go have a happy hour or go have dinner together and like actually want to? Well, we're also so respectful of our lanes. We're so busy doing what we're doing. It's not until the end of the day that we actually get to have some really great time and laugh and go in the garden and harvest and just be together. But they are my best friends. And they will have, what's beautiful too is knowing that you have that mutual respect. They always have your back. And I'll say too, from a team member standpoint, my team always really appreciated, because they saw how we did not treat each other any differently. And, if anything, family members had to like take it harder at times because they've got to prove themselves out. And there was no triangulation. It was very direct communication. So it also prevented toxicity that you sometimes do have in an organization without family, where you start getting people who will silo communication or go around. And because we had set that standard, that standard was instituted with our team as well. And it created a very functional system across the board, and an enjoyable one. It was a great culture.
I can imagine. You see, the thing is, you don't have to explain what you do every Christmas. Your family already knows what it is and things of that nature. Now, speaking of not leaving your hand too long on the stove, I want us to go back to that kitchen table. Were there any big doubts when you guys really started? Okay, we are now doing this. We are now going at it, creating our own products. Was there any moment where you nearly thought, oh, I think we're in over our heads now?
You always feel like you're in over your heads. That I'm not sure that ever goes away, to be quite honest. Uh, absolutely. I think as you're building a business, it's difficult to not get too low on the lows and get too high on the highs, because it's a difficult way to exist if you're on that roller coaster too much. And yet, at the same token, if you don't allow yourself to experience some of those emotions, you just become not stagnant. You become immune. You're just not living. And so it's a very interesting dance to kind of stay level headed and also celebrate small wins and keep moving through those tough moments, because they're all going to be there, and you don't want to exhaust yourself. There's definitely a lot of fight or flight. There's no question about it. But continuing to bring yourself to the center. And with every challenge, there's an opportunity. And I think that's something that was instilled with me in the military and in family, and going, you know what, this is a tough moment, but let's get curious. What can I learn from this moment? What new person am I going to meet? What is the new place I'm going to go to? And I think developing that skill of curiosity allowed us to I say stay above the line in a way where you're curious, you're empathetic, you're non-judgmental to yourself and others, and some of those more positive frames of mind that will serve you through very difficult times. Because building a business, it is not easy. It is, and if it was easy, everyone would do it. and but it's there's so much joy that can come from it, and I appreciate the challenges and just kind of taking a step back and saying, how can I look at this problem differently? And 9 times out of 10, there's things that come to you that you would have never expected, and what you learn about yourself in that journey as well is fruitful beyond words.
Mm, absolutely. And I like how you're talking about, the people you come across and the things that, you know, just seemingly pop up without you having, explicitly planned them out for. Now, I wanted to take us back a little bit to that lanyard salesman who actually turned into, I think, your manufacturer at that time. It just really sounds like podcast gold right there, that story of how it all unfolded. How did he go from peach and skepticism to then saying, you know what, we could do things differently?
Our manufacturer. So we were having a difficult time scaling this process,
Mm.
and we thought, okay, we're just not going to be able to take Green Goo nationwide because we're not going to compromise the process. And how we make these products is critical to the efficacy. And we were at a trade show, and this individual came up to us and he shared with us that his son had eczema. And so we gave him our product, and he left, and he called us 2 days later and just happened to be running a manufacturing facility and said, you know what? My son has never had anything over the counter that has worked as beautifully as this. The world needs these products, and we are going to find a way to scale these products. And so he helped us develop a dedicated line with a dedicated team to build this process and be able to make these products. And it was an incredibly special moment and critical in our future. And that allowed us to protect the integrity and the efficacy.
Absolutely. I love how you keep referring back to protecting the integrity and the efficacy of the products. And from what I read, you guys actually invented your own extraction method instead of using pre-made extras. I mean, for those that are listening, it actually sounds like, why buy cake mix when you can actually back from scratch, which is basically what you guys actually did. Why did you choose the harder path?
Because it works. I mean, it is just the game changer, and it works. It is food for your skin, and it's nutritive skincare, and you're getting this beautiful botanical profile in these oils that your skin loves to drink up. And so these carrier oils bring in this medicinal blend, and that's why you get the results that you get. And I love thinking about the early days when we would grow the herbs in our garden, and we would harvest them, and we would dry them on screen door racks, and we'd have all these screen doors on the porch drying the herbs. And at this point, our kitchen had been taken over by us producing these products, and we actually had to build an outdoor kitchen for us to cook in for our food, because our indoor kitchen had become our production facility, if you will, in the early days. But we knew that if we couldn't bring these products in the format that they were without the shortcuts, the whole plant, we say, do you want your your little vitamin C packet, or do you want the freshly squeezed orange juice and all the goodness that comes from it? And we're still learning so much about what these plants have to offer. And some of these extraction processes, they use high heat, and they kill the medicinal components. They pull out parts of the plant that compromises how these plants perform. And so having that whole plant entourage effect works. And we feel really passionate about bringing, and I think even just the ethos behind it, bringing forward time honored traditions is kind of the DNA of our company in terms of community and some of the storytelling and things that bring people together. And so for us, it's almost like a spiritual act, of these plants and the healing and the community around them. And that's our flywheel. That's what we love to bring forward.
I can imagine, because if you look at the palm of your hand, all these different fingers have different uses. So you've brought in all these components and ingredients, the past, the present, the family, and also your background in psychoneuroimmunology. And I'm still trying to figure out how this converges now with obviously the skin cells, because I know your sister was the one that was doing the herbs and stuff like that. You could have gone on and really done certain things. What's the not so obvious connection of what you went on and studied and why you really wanted to make sure that this worked?
Well, it's so interesting too, because as we evolved Green Goo, we started to bring in Ayurvedic practices and essential oils that impact your mood. We have a sexual wellness brand called Southern Butter, and those essential oils and aromas impact your mindset, which impact how you feel getting in the mood for those special moments. And we started bringing that forward into the products, our baby balm product, and having a nice soft lavender scent that's calming for the baby and calming for the mom, and some different essential oil roll-ons that we introduced in sprays. And then what was really interesting is, as a leader in this organization, this full circle of sort of mind body medicine, because we're operating in fight or flight and building this company, sold the company, bought the company back. During that time of selling and buying the company, we almost lost our homes. I had less than 24 hours to terminate my entire team, my legacy team of building the company, including my mom and sister, within 24 hours, unemployed. And we were tested in ways that we never thought were possible. And it's really interesting when you're trying to find the opportunity when you are just in a state of panic, and having to really ground yourself so that you can think clearly. You can think about the next decision. I started cold plunging. I was, then I started investing in myself and doing what I call mental fire drills, where you stop for 90 seconds, you do deep breathing, you put your bare feet on the ground and you focus your thoughts. You might look at the horizon and just really focus on the horizon as you're clearing out thoughts, and different, I call them PQ reps as well. And getting grounded while you feel like the whole world is just a tornado around you. But without doing that, you're not going to be able to decide what to do next. And if I can instill anything in leadership and entrepreneurship, start that now, because it will serve you so well. You are going to have crisis around you all the time. It is a part of building a business. Some days are going to be easier than others. But what's so interesting to me is that I actually enjoy, I'm at the hardest time in our career with Green Goo, and I'm having the most fun. I am the happiest I've ever been. And I have more joy. And I think, I always loved building this company, but I wasn't investing in myself. And so it was always a luxury. It's a luxury for leaders and entrepreneurs. You're just supposed to like grind. And I challenge that, because I'm actually producing more results, better results today. and and I'm happier doing it by stopping and taking care of myself and investing in myself. And this notion that, you have to meditate for 2 hours a day to achieve that. There's more data around small reps throughout the day will serve you. So you can stop and take 1 minute, 90 seconds, do that 5 times a day, and you are developing those parts of your brain that are going to serve you in crisis.
Love that. And you know what they say, to whom much is given, much is required, and in that particular situation, anybody else would have just fetal position and say, you know what, I've got my qualifications, I'm just gonna go and start work. But you literally found strength in that. And I think you actually discovered who you really were, because when we're just going through the motions and trying to do, be, and perform, we miss the actual thing, which is this is all a journey, and it's a journey to self discovery. And if we do land on that, that's when the unlock happens. So, with some people that would say, oh, woe is me, but this actually happened for you. This whole incident, the selling, the buying, everything else. I don't know how you think about that.
No, perfectly said. That was a mantra, is this is happening for me. I would wake up every day. This is happening for me. What can I learn from this? And wow, how this, the halo effect too, and how this impacted me as a parent and me as a partner. My daughter got to watch me go through an incredibly difficult time and develop skills that she then inherited, because she would spend time with me, and I would really drop in and I would share that wisdom with her. And now I see her doing it. She's getting ready to do some homework and she's getting frustrated. And I see her taking a couple deep breaths and rubbing her fingertips together and just getting present. And then she goes into the problem. And what an opportunity for her to learn this at 13 years old instead of later in life, and how this will serve her in time. And same thing with my husband, and how we approach problems together and taking a moment to get grounded. And it's really spectacular when you start, it's that journey within and that halo effect that can happen around you. And so, yes, it happened for me. And I'm actually very grateful. And I never would have thought that before.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching right now, I think whenever something is happening or you're going through stuff, lean in, take deep breaths, and pay close attention, because one day you'll have a good story to tell on the online prosperity show. Now, Jodi, you obviously came through that, you breathed your way through it, and I think things really turned around. Walk us through what happened next.
What happens next? Well, we're just going to bring Green Goo global as planned. So you will find it very, very soon. And we're just building Green Goo back into the world. Southern Butter. We have a couple other beautiful products in our portfolio. We have Women's Health Ova Moon. We now have a luxury beauty brand, Fan Botanicals, and bringing a holistic skincare and wellness portfolio to everyone. And so we'll continue to bring those products with integrity, authenticity, that same process, whole foods, and hopefully impact people in a holistic way. I'll say my mom and I also just finished writing some children's books, and we are hopeful that we get to introduce some of these practices to kiddos at an even earlier age, and impart this wisdom. So she's also a beautiful artist. So she is in the process right now of illustrating them. So they will be her illustrations, and another special thing that we got to do together, which is really sweet.
Not only are you just doing it, for your family, you now belong to YPO now, right? And yet
Yes.
you built this from a kitchen table. And what sort of invisible shifts show you or have short for you or happened when you actually surrounded yourself with peers who just get it?
YPO was such a gift. I was in a conscious capitalism forum, and I asked an individual in the group, and I said, what is the one thing that you've done that has served you professionally, personally, and spiritually in your business journey? And he said, YPO. And I go, what? What is YPO? and I thought, oh, at at a glance, I'm like, this is a club. How does this serve him in that way? And he introduced me to the community, and wow, what a gift. I cannot say enough words around, to your point, being in that community, especially high performing CEOs, and it can be really lonely at the top. And sometimes you can feel like, I mean, I can't unload everything to my mom and sister. That would be going outside of our lane. That wouldn't be fair to them. It would be challenging for the business. It'd be challenging for the relationship. Having a peer group where I can do that in a safe container, in a safe space, while also getting incredible counsel, productive solutions, resources, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And it's just next level in terms of another resource to help guide you through the journey. And to my conscious capitalism friends' point, it is at a spiritual and professional and personal level. There's a place where you bring your family. Like my daughter will join the YPO youth opportunities when it comes, and she gets to go be with other children whose parents are doing this kind of work, and she gets to have that like relatable moment because her home isn't, I guess, whatever you want to call typical. And so she appreciates having that community as well, and resources where she can start thinking about her business journey, because she's been listening to us talk since she was 2 years old, listening to our business conversations at home. The things that she has taken in is, and matter of fact, she gives really great business advice. I was like, you're going to be a much better CEO than I ever was. She's got it down.
Absolutely. Well, you know what they say, if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. And community just really seems to, because we're wired for community. Whatever we do as human beings, we might think we are good at it by ourselves, but that's not the way. Now, if somebody's looking to find out a little bit more about what you guys are working on, where they can get some of your products or things of that nature, where on the internet can they go, Jodi?
Best to go to greengoo.com and Amazon. And that's where you can find the breadth of products along with the other brands that are in the portfolio.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can actually get started on their journey. And, you know, so much can be said about where you guys been, what you guys are working on, and what you have created. Not only has this been a self journey on your part, discovery, building that business, having to fall down, and it's a perfect hero's journey and things of that nature. Um, that's so phenomenal. But you are still working with a product that not so many people would easily accept had they not had the experience of using it. And what's like one misconception about natural skincare or maybe the first aid industry that people still really believe that you'd really want to debunk right this moment?
Well, yes, there is a lot of greenwashing. So there are natural products out there that are not going to perform for you, and that's a fair statement. So I invite you to look at ingredients and process to be able to take that further for you in terms of an efficacy standpoint. And the beauty of having these products in your life is that you'll not only eliminate the clutter in your house, you will be eliminating chemicals that are not serving you and more than likely having a negative impact on your life and your wellness and the symptom that you're exactly trying to treat. And so our product probably goes against capitalism, being that the more you use it, the less you need it. But what a great outcome, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, Jodi, I don't know how big your security detail is. I mean, maybe because you've had experience in the army and things of that nature, you might be able to defend yourself. But you're going against an industry where, people are hell bent on protecting whatever customers they've created along the journey, filling up medicine cabinets and things of that nature. Yeah, well, what's your take on that?
Well, it's real. And these are legacy brands that are well funded and have been around for a long time and well established. Uh, However, I was visiting with a broker actually, who was one of the brokers that brought some of these topical OTC products to market. And it didn't happen overnight. It took a while for even those chemical laden products to prove themselves out. So Green Goo is here to stay and will be here to prove itself out for decades to come. And yeah, it's not, yes, it'll be an uphill battle, but we're at the plant renaissance, as they call it now. It is so much more awareness around ingredients and the opportunities that these plants can bring. And so I'm just super excited to be a part of that journey with
Abs-
everyone.
Absolutely. Well, Jodi, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today. I mean, your life story from the kitchen chaos to national shelves, and then from anxiety driven grind to mission rooted leadership, selling your business, buying it back now with a deeper purpose. I think that is the exact kind of transformative story that belongs on the Online Prosperity Show. And I'm so grateful you shared your journey with us today.
Thank you. It was an absolute treat to be with you.
Great stuff. For those that are watching right now, I hope you got a lesson or two. And if today's conversation really resonated with you, do me a favor. Share this episode with someone who's striving to either build something meaningful or has been having a lot of problems with their health or particularly their skin. They might actually find something in the product range that Green Goo has to offer. And if somebody has brought you to this show, the next time you meet them, give them a hug. And while you're at it, subscribe for more insights like these life shifting stories that we share on the Online Prosperity Show. And I can't wait to see what you're going to do with this information. And hopefully, you guys will take this whichever way you will so you can have a happier existence. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Online Prosperity Show. Bye for now.